Hi, and welcome to The Care of Truth. I'm Marlena, and I'm here with Susan Perriott, and we are here to talk even more about dementia and Alzheimer's. And I think the myth we'll be debunking today is that there's no hope, that there's nothing that we can do for dementia or with Alzheimer's, and that there's a lot of stigmas behind dementia and Alzheimer's and what that really means. So thank you, Susan, for being here today.
Thank you for having me. This is wonderful.
Absolutely. Tell me a little bit about yourself and how you got involved with the Alzheimer's Association.
I have been in nonprofits for almost 30 years. It's just
You don't look
wonderful.
old enough to be
Well,
involved for
thank
30
you.
years.
But it's such a calling as people who work with people who have dementia as well. And I just enjoy all the people I've met along this journey. And I was with the ALS Association for a number of years, so another horrible disease. But when I came over here, I wanted to be part of something that could really change the world. You know, there's 7 million people that have Alzheimer's disease. And if we can find treatments and prevention methods and can stop this disease, we really literally are changing the world. So
Absolutely.
It's exciting to be part of that.
For sure. And think of how that helps families, that they get more years with their mom, their grandma, that they wouldn't have had without all the work that you all are doing.
Absolutely.
So thank you for all the stuff you guys are doing. I know it's a village, right?
It is. We could not do this on our own. We need all of our volunteers, our donors, our supporters, our sponsors to really make a difference in this disease.
Wow, I love that. I love that. So tell me about some of the research and the hope that really is out there with Alzheimer's.
You know, the Alzheimer's Association is the largest nonprofit funder of Alzheimer's research. We are just behind the U.S. federal government and the Chinese government. So really impressive.
Yeah.
And this last 2 years, we've been able to fund $100 million of research each year, which is incredible.
That is incredible.
So overall, I always have to look the statistic up. Overall, we're currently funding $430 million, and we are funding over 1,100 projects in 57 countries. So
That's
it's not
amazing.
just here. So it's really looking at all different things. It's not just which drugs. That's not just what we do, but looking at lifestyle changes and exercises, what things you can do there. How is air pollution impacting? We've had terrible forest fires. How is that impacting our cognition? Lots of things that we fund.
That is amazing. And things that we don't all think about, right?
No.
And I guess we really should be, right? You know, it should be more common talk. I know one of the things that we focus on the Care Truth is that we don't need to be scared to talk about these things.
No.
In the United States, no one likes to talk about death and dying and getting older, and, you know, it stinks. Like, there's so much of it that's rough. But if we talk about it, it takes some of that stigma away, right?
Oh, you are so right. I mean, we're all going to die at some point of something. So talking about that and helping to reduce the risk, the stigma around Alzheimer's disease is really important. When I first came to the association, people didn't want to talk about Alzheimer's. It was scary. They were going to hide in their homes and be isolated. And that honestly makes it worse.
Yes.
You know, it is better off to talk about it. And I always say, if you go into an event or your church or the restaurant or whatever, and people know what you're dealing with, people are really forgiving.
Yes.
And they want to help you. But if they don't know what's going on and maybe somebody's acting differently than they would, everybody kind of tends to shy away. So that's why I really say it's important to talk about it. And important because you'd be surprised if you came up to me and said, oh, I have Alzheimer's disease. How many people, or say that somebody else, so many people say, well, you don't look sick.
Right.
Well, how does Alzheimer's look? I mean, there's not a look. It's not like I broke my leg and you can see I broke my leg.
Yes, and the same with mental illness. I hear that so often, right? You know, someone gets diagnosed with bipolar or schizophrenia and they don't look any different than they did before the diagnosis, and that can make it really hard, right? Because people maybe don't have the patience they would have. I had a gal on named Carol who does traveling with individuals, seniors, whether they have dementia or Alzheimer's or just physical impairments. And she has started with a lanyard that has sunflowers on it to bring awareness so that more people can see that and know that's someone that may need a little more support from me, and it's not something that we need to be afraid of.
Right. I love that program. That's a great program.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about stigmas. What does that look like?
I think that people are so afraid that they're going to make a mistake. Alzheimer's disease, and for lack of better words, it makes us feel stupid. I can be the smartest person in the world, and all of a sudden, if I can't remember how to turn my computer on, or I'm having balance issues and falling, it makes me feel not capable of being part of society.
Yeah, less than.
Yeah, less than, exactly. And so I think that's where that stigma comes in, is that most people don't want to admit something's going wrong. But the thing I would say today is that there is so much hope out there, and that things are happening in the science world really fast, that addressing it, knowing how you're going to live with this disease, how you want to be cared for with this disease is really important. Making sure that you get to have a voice in those decisions. And because now that we have drugs available for people, let's see if that's an option.
Right.
I say to people, if you had cancer, you wouldn't hesitate to go in. You're going in to say, what can we do about this? How am I going to fight this disease? Well, it's the same with Alzheimer's disease or any other form of dementia. How am I going to fight this, or how am I going to live with it?
Yes.
And live to the best of my ability.
And what you said was so important. While you are still able to make choices and decisions, to have the conversation with your loved one and get your wishes put down so they can honor that as you go. Talk about if they should still be DNR, DNI, or full code, and what that means. And, like you said, no one's getting out of this alive. We're all going to go with something. And, it's part of what we need to talk about. And so, if you have an unfortunate heart attack and you have Alzheimer's, do you want to be resuscitated, or do you not? Do you want to allow that peaceful end? And so, really important.
And I'm sure you've seen a lot of this from family members. Is the family all on the same page of what mom or dad wants, or aunt and uncle or grandparents? And I was sitting with a family last night, and they had 7 kids in the family.
Oh boy!
Said, we are not all on the same page, and they said most of us are now, but it has taken a long time to get there. And just, wow, let's enjoy the moments that we have with our loved ones. Let's create as many memories as we can, and not worry about those other things. So that's why it's important to have all those conversations ahead of time.
Yeah, just get them done so everyone's in the same boat, and then you can all row together and make progress, which is great.
Absolutely.
So what would you say are some of the hard conversations? I know we talked a little bit about DNR, DNI, but what are some other things that families really should think about if they get that diagnosis of Alzheimer's?
Driving. When should we be giving up driving? Wandering. Probably 50% of people with Alzheimer's disease or another form of dementia wander. So how are you going to keep your loved one safe? The financial component is really big. That's one of the first signs, honestly, for Alzheimer's disease, is if people are making poor choices around their finances. Maybe they're withdrawing more money than they normally would, buying cars more frequently than they would, giving money away. And we all know how many adult scams are out there now.
There's
telephone,
so
emails.
many.
Oh, it's awful. So making sure that your finances are protected so you don't bankrupt the family, and that there are resources available to care for a person throughout their journey. I mean, this isn't a disease where when you're diagnosed, you go into the nursing home tomorrow and you're going to die within, a year. People can live 8, 10, 20 years with this disease.
Yeah, and there's so many little things you can do to make, other than just medications. Diet can have an influence, exercise can be a big one, and that whole saying, use it or lose it, is so true, right?
Absolutely.
If you work your brain, you can kind of stay off some of the more significant changes.
Absolutely. It's really important for people with Alzheimer's disease to continue to stay engaged socially. So yes, they're stimulating their brain, they're still creating new pathways, they're learning things. They might not remember everything, but that's really important to their overall health.
Yeah, so what are some of those 10 best ways or 10 habits that people should be focusing on?
To love your brain. All be doing these all the time. Challenge your mind. Truly learning new things all the time. that is really important. I always say it's not just doing the crossword puzzle or your Sudoku, but mix it up. Change puzzles, start trying to learn a new language. What's a new skill or a new hobby you might want to learn something about? So you're constantly learning.
I just learned there is a new app for learning a new language that is AI driven. So you get to talk to something that looks like a person, but it's all AI generated. So you don't have to feel like you're making a mistake in front of someone else. And I was blown away. I'm like, there's just no limits to what can be done nowadays.
That's amazing. Stay in school.
All right.
And not necessarily into our adult years, but that they're focused on that for, elementary, high school, college. Stay in school, keep learning things. As you progress through school, you build up, I'm going to call a reserve in your brains. And there's more of that to compensate for when a disease like Alzheimer's comes on. So it's important to stay in school. Get moving. Regular exercise. It's so good for your brain, getting that fresh oxygen and clearing out all the toxins from your body. Protect your head. Wear that helmet. I know we don't always like to do that, but watch for concussions. That can be a real issue with Alzheimer's disease. Quit smoking. We just need to quit smoking.
Yeah, tobacco it just needs to be all done.
Yes. Some of these all are right in there together, controlling your blood pressure.
Okay.
If you can keep your systolic blood pressure number, so that top one, at 120 or lower, whether through diet and exercise or even if you have to be on medication, you can reduce your risk for Alzheimer's disease by 20 or 30%.
Wow, that's
really
significant.
Huge. Yeah, that's something we all can do. Manage your diabetes. Eat right. That Mediterranean diet, really important. This one's not on here, but drink in moderation.
Fair enough. Yes.
People who are alcoholics and can also, it does impact the brain, and they can have a lot of cognition problems, just like a person with Alzheimer's disease. Maintaining a healthy weight and sleep.
Sleep. I know, that's a hard one.
Oh my gosh.
Especially for us ladies. As we get older, sleep is...
It's terrible.
Yeah, you missed it when you had the babies, and now when you get older, you miss it even for other reasons, right?
So that is the part that I struggle with all the time.
Right, yeah, me too. Yeah. Me too. All right, well, what is the right amount of sleep? What do they say now?
I think it's between 7 and 8 hours. I mean, each person has a little bit different, but for an adult, 7 to 8 hours in there is really good.
So these are fantastic resources. Where can our listeners go to get this information?
Absolutely.
And what other kind of resources are available?
Well, you can go on to our website, alz.org, and find all of this information and the resources that are out there. Part of these, loving your brain and these 10 healthy habits, we just did a study at our big research conference. We released the results. We've been doing this actually since I think 2018, 2019. It was called the Pointer Study.
Okay.
And it all looked at lifestyle changes. What happens if you do, regular exercise? What happens if you do regular brain training? If you're eating a Mediterranean diet, all these different things. How can you reduce your risk or slow down the aging process of your brain? And we are going to be developing an app that will have this on there, so you can track your diet, your exercise, your brain training, and all of that, and just amazing results. So go on the website and read about that too. And
fantastic.
I know more information about the Pointer Study is going to be coming out as we study those in-depth results.
Well, you mentioned the Pointer Study and all the different research that you're able to provide. How does that get funded?
It gets funded through our volunteers that participate in our events. Some people will send in memorial money or a general donation, estate gifts. Those are always really nice. But a significant amount of our funding comes from our Walk to End Alzheimer's, our Purple Gala, the Do What You Love activities. So it's really about all of us being in this fight together.
I love that. So you mentioned the walk.
Yes.
It's coming up, right?
It is, yes, September 27th
at
Target Field. And there's a 1 mile route and a 2 mile route. So it's an easy walk. And I always say, even if you don't want to walk, you can just hang out at Target Field with me, because I'll be there. It'll be
perfect.
Yeah.
So if someone wants to put together a team, whether it's a family or a business, how do they do that?
Super easy. Just go onto the website and get to alz.org and then, Google walk, and it'll come up. In fact, it probably is one of the first pages. Walk to End Alzheimer's, and you can sign up, register your team. A team is 2 people or more, and you can help start raising money. I always say, I ask everybody in my Facebook groups or friends. I send it out to everybody on my Christmas card list, all my neighbors. I probably have a list of 50 different people that I'm asking for donations to help support this cause. And even if someone hasn't been impacted directly, we should all be concerned about this, because we all have a brain, right?
We all have a brain. Hopefully.
I want to protect my brain and create those incredible memories with my children to last a lifetime. And I also don't want them to have to take care of me as they age. And the exciting thing with the progress is it's not going to be the same disease as it is today or that it was 10 years ago. We are having success.
And we're seeing that with so many diseases, right? Like
yes.
breast cancer, the survival rate has it's amazing.
Oh,
it's not
gosh,
like
yeah.
you get it and now it's a life sentence. There's so many people who are able to fight and live a good life long after. And I see Alzheimer's as that as well.
Yeah. Funding the research is so important. And I always tell the story about my dad. My father has heart disease. He's had 2 heart attacks. His father and his grandfather both died at the age of 50 from heart attacks. My dad's had 2, but we've developed angioplasties. Guess what? And he has lived, and he is now 86 years old.
Congratulations.
And just thank you.
Yes.
Chugs along. But, if that had happened 40, 50 years ago, yeah, he would have died. Right. But because we've advanced science, he's living.
Yes.
That's what we're doing with Alzheimer's disease. We're going to be able to diagnose early, get on treatments, and slow this progression down and live good quality of life for a long time.
Now, did I hear that there's a blood test now?
There is. It was just released a couple months ago, approved by the FDA. Now, what I would say is it's not the definitive, you're going to go in and take that test and they're going to automatically say you have Alzheimer's disease. You're going to take that, and if it has positive results, they're going to go and do further testing. They're going to do the cognition, word association, all that good stuff. Can you draw a clock? And if that's determining it, then they might say, yes, you have Alzheimer's disease. If they're still confused, they might send you on for a PET scan or a lumbar puncture or something along that. But it is going to become even more and more prevalent that we use that, because it's really cost effective.
Yeah, you find out right away. Like either you need to go down this route or you need to figure out what else is causing these issues, which is great.
Absolutely.
At least you have a place to start.
Absolutely.
What else before we wrap things up, is there anything else that our listeners should know about Alzheimer's?
I just want to say, reach out for help, because there is so much hope. There are things that you can do. Even if someone doesn't qualify for one of those drugs, if they have a different form of dementia, there's still things of changing your lifestyle, how you're eating, making sure you get rest and sleep, that will really continue to help improve what life you have left. And that's what we want, and that's really important. So there's hope, there's help. You are not the only person in this disease, in this fight, and I don't want people to feel isolated or so alone.
Good. Yeah, because if you're alone, you're not using your brain, right? You're not talking, you're not trying to problem solve, you're not doing any of those things. And when you stop, you lose where you were before.
Absolutely.
And so it turns into a very vicious cycle. So thank you, Susan, so much for coming.
Thank you.
And for spending some time with us. I definitely think we debunked that, getting Alzheimer's doesn't mean that it's a life sentence and that things are over. There's so much hope out there. The research is really exciting, and all of us can contribute by being a part of the walks, being a part of the galas, and talk about fun, right?
Oh my
Getting
gosh.
to meet a lot of fun people and all people who want to make a change and make the world better. So thank you all so much for coming and being a part of the Care Truth. I'm Marlena, and this is Susan, and we appreciate you spending the time. If you wouldn't mind, subscribe, share our podcast so more people can get this really important information. Thanks so much. Bye.